Welcome back on Dynamode. I want to propose you a cycle of videos about the Codex Necron released in 2018 by the Games Workshop. These videos will be about the different part of the Codex Necron itself. So each video it will be a part, and it is done so in the way that I can concentrate, I can focus on a specific theme that I'll treat in that video in particular, so that you can see the different videos together if you're interested to all the part about the Codex Necron that I can talk about, or see only the part that you are interested in. So now we can begin. And now we can start to talk about the Warlord traits. You have to understand that I had to divide this part in two parts, different ones, because you had the general Warlord traits and the specific Dynasty Warlord traits. Anyway, now I'll talk about the Warlord traits themselves. Obviously, if you want, you can choose two different ways to use the general Warlord traits, and it's that from one side you can decide to throw randomly to decide each game which one you'll have. The other one is that you can choose which one you'll have, so you can choose which one to put on your army for your general. Sincerely, I don't think that the one about choosing them randomly is a good idea, so I prefer to choose anyway that Warlord trait, so that you can have the decision with really a good way for your general to put on the game, and so have your army in a good way. And now we can start talk about the first Warlord trait, that it's Enduring Will, that let you reduce any damage inflicted to your Warlord by 1 to a minimum of 1. So it's really an amazing thing, because it means that each damage that you keep it's reduced by 1, so it's quite interesting. Moreover, if you think applying it, for example, to a catacomb command barge, so in the way that you have a really nice way, because in such a way you have the option, for example, to survive to lasers to a catacomb command barge or to something else. So it's a really interesting command trait. If you want to make your Warlord survive, it's really an amazing Warlord trait. And now there is a fact that I don't understand why it's on the chapter approved 2017 facts released with the big fact one, instead of being on the facts about the Codex Necron. Anyway, there is a fact that is specified in the case that you choose, for example, an Overlord on a Catacomb command barge, and this is your Warlord, and it has also the Warlord trait Enduring Will. If it suffer a damage that is a multiple wound damage, if it apply before the Quantum Shielding or the Enduring Will abilities. And here it specified that first you resolve the Quantum Shielding ability first, and in the case the damage is after, you apply the Enduring Will trait. So it's good that it's specified, because it solves quite a bit of eventual problem that you could have, because otherwise you could have made the damage less and then tried to facilitate the Quantum Shielding. So instead it's the opposite. Before you try the Quantum Shielding and then you apply the Enduring Will. So in a way it's quite safer, but in a way it's something that has to be specified. And the second one is Eternal Madness, that it's quite interesting because it lets you reroll failed wound rolls for your Warlord in the fight phase. It works only for wound rolls and only in the fight phase, but it's quite interesting because it applies when you charged, you were charged, or you performed an heroic intervention. So it becomes really quite an interesting one. Moreover, if you think that you can associate, for example, this to an artifact, for example, like a Vault Reaper, so you can have the choosing to associate in the way to have a better usage of the Warlord traits for your general, associated to different things, and it can even improve better if you associate this Warlord trait, for example, to a particular dynasty. So I say you to think quite carefully how to associate the different things in the way to have and gain the best bonuses from all of them together, because there are quite a good options to think about them. You have really to take note about this Warlord trait. The next one, Warlord trait, it's Immortal Pride. That it's quite interesting one and has two different effects. The first one is that let you make automatically pass friendly dynasty units, so with the same dynasty keyword, the moral test, and it's quite interesting that way. And it applies to all the units that are with the same dynasty within 6 inch of the Warlord. And what its main part, I think, it's the second part that let you attempt to deny one psychic power in each physic phase in the same manner of a psyker. And in some way it's a good thing because it lets you have another model other than the deynontech spiders that can do such a thing. So it's really an interesting thing in the way to use this to have both advantages. So you can have the avoiding of the problem about do the moral tests, so having the bonus about that, and also having a denying of the psychers. So I think that it's quite interesting one as Warlord trait. The next one is Thrall of the Silent King, that let you increase the range of full abilities on your Warlord's datasheets by 3 inch, with a lot of exceptions. For example, if a Catacomb Barge has this Warlord trait, this doesn't apply to its Explode ability. If a Cryptid has this Warlord trait, only increase the range of that model's Technomancer's ability, not that all other cryptas in your army, so you have to take note about such a thing. And if a cryptic itself has a canoptech cloak and it doesn't apply, for example, to the distance of the cloak that allows the model to move in the movement phase. So there are a lot of limitations, but anyway it becomes quite interesting even only for some abilities, because it allows you to amplify quite a bit the range that it applies, because even only if one model of that ability is within the range, it applies to all the units. So it's quite interesting as a Warlord trait, but you have to choose attentively which model make general if you want to apply this Warlord trait to that model based on the abilities that that model itself has. So it's anyway good to take note about. The next one is Implacable Conqueror, and it's quite interesting because it makes you reroll failed charge rolls for friendly dynasty units if they are within 6 inch of your Warlord. And it's quite an interesting thing, because if you think that you can have, for example, the Veil of the Darkness as an artifact, or simply the ability to move faster and so on, or with the monolith to the redeploy and so on, even the Nightshide's invasion beam, you can have a lot of usages for such a thing. So I suggest you to take note about this Warlord trait, because it can be really quite an interesting one. So I suggest you really to take note, because this Warlord trait let you, for example, having units with the same dynasty, like the canoptech weights, to reach faster the opponent. So I suggest you really to take a consideration about such a thing, because you can have quite a lot of nice usages for this Warlord trait. And the next Warlord trait is Honorable Combatant, that let you, if the Warlord target the same enemy character, remember that it's character the problem here, with all their close combat attacks, add D3 attacks to the attacks that this Warlord will do to that character until the end of the phase. So it's quite interesting one in the way that you go to combat matches against characters, but the problem is that it goes only against characters, so you can't have a lot of bonuses that added, or in a way you can't apply always other than being fighting the characters of the other army. So you have to pay attention in choosing these Warlord traits, because it sounds really good, but it has an implication that can be quite worse if you are not able to make the general go against other characters. So pay attention to it. It's good, but it's something that you have to take care how to utilize, because it can be a double-edged weapon. And now we can talk about the Dynasty Warlord traits. What I want to add before to start to talk about these Warlord Dynasty traits is that they apply to the named characters, and each Dynasty named characters has to take this relative Dynasty Warlord trait as their Warlord trait in the case they are Warlord. So you have to remember such a thing, because it's important in the way that you can deploy the warlords as you want. So if you want to choose a certain name character as a warlord, you have to know which of these dynasty warlord traits you have. So pay attention to it. And now we can talk about the dynasty warlord trait of the South-Tech. That it's quite interesting because it has two different effects. The first one is that once for battle you can reroll a single hit roll, wound roll or damage roll made for your warlord. So in some way it's similar to the effect of the Time Splinter Cloak, that it's an artifact that it's available only for the Inilac dynasty. So you have to remember this. But what is quite important more than the first effect, it's the second effect that let you, in addition, till the warlord is on the field, each time you spend a command point to use a stratagem, on a 5+, you gain back a command point. It's amazing, it's even better than the Veritas Vitae of the Blood Angels, because the Veritas Vitae, it let you to each time use a stratagem to gain back eventually one command point. Here it doesn't mean how many stratagem you use, but how many command points you use. So it's really a really interesting one. Even if you are not interested, if you are using the South-Tech, sincerely I almost suggest you to play this warlord trait anyway, because it's really amazing, even only for this particular ability. It's really quite an interesting one. So take really note about this warlord trait for the dynasty of the South-Tech, because it's really amazing. About the dynasty warlord for the Mefrit dynasty, it's quite interesting one, because it lets you add 6 to the maximum range of full assault weapons fired by your warlord. And in addition, your warlord can shoot assault weapons at enemy characters even if they are not the closest enemy model. So it means that it's a sniper. And remember that you can have also the advantage of the dynasty code for the Mefrit, so it gains even better one. And think about using, for example, the Catacomb Command Barge. You can have access to a lot of assault weapons once, and moreover you can even think about giving to the general the Voltaic Staff, so gaining even more things to fire. So it becomes really quite an amazing thing to use. Sincerely, it's quite an amazing one, because it allows you to have a great volume of fire, a better range of firing, a better range for the use of the dynasty code, because it goes in a better range, and also to have a sniper rules. So it becomes really quite an amazing thing, and I think that you should take note about using such warlord trait if you are interested in playing the Mefrit dynasty, because it's really a great thing to use with such a dynasty. And now we can talk about the Nihilak Warlord Dynasty trait. That it's quite interesting because let you, your Warlord, always fight first in the fight phase, even if he didn't charge. If your opponent has units that has charge or has the similar ability, then alternate choosing units to fight with, starting with the player whose turn is taking place. So anyway, it's a good thing, because the Nihilak as a dynasty has the tendency to be in combat. So it's quite interesting having a model that can fight before the others can. So I suggest you to take note about this one, because it's really a quite interesting warlord trait for this dynasty. It's not one of the best, but surely it's really an interesting one. And then we talk about the Necron one. It's quite an interesting one, this dynasty, cause your opponent must extract one from hit roll that targets your warlord, and it apply without any exception, so it means that it apply in the melee and in the shooting part, so it's quite a good thing. But in some way it's something that you can think that it's the characteristic of the Necron one, because for example you can have access to the solar staff as an artifact, so you can really see how many part these maluses you can give to the opponent. So it's a really nice as the preservation for your warlord traits if you choose the Necron. It's maybe not the best, but surely about the options to have the general to be saved, it's quite interesting thing because it make your general avoiding the rolls, so it's really interesting warlord trait as a dynasty. And now we can talk about the Novok dynasty warlord traits, that it's quite interesting because it's not related directly to the general itself, but to the friendly units model that are within 6 inches of your warlord, so even including the general itself. Remember that the warlord is included because it's a novel model within 6 inches from itself. And if you do in the combat phase a 6 on the hit roll, you can generate another attack with that same weapon against the same target, so it becomes really quite an interesting one. But remember that it applies only to the models, not to the units, but to the models that belongs to units of the Novok dynasty. So it's really a good thing to amplify the combat in the case you want to bring your models against the enemy and the general in the close part. So it's a really nice warlord trait because it's one of the few that has a sort of range improvement for your army, but anyway it's quite good to apply and to use. Sincerely, if you play the Novok, you can really think if use this as your warlord trait because it can be quite interesting one. Making a recap of the warlord traits that you can choose, you have a lot of different options to choose about. Sincerely, I suggest you to think about the combination about the warlord traits and the artifact that you can have, because you can distribute in the way that your characters has a better moving and a better usage of the different things that you can have, or even simply having an amassment but a more incisive way to use your general and your warlord. So they are quite good, they are quite strategic thing, they are quite a nice way to play different ways. You can really have different warlords with different types of improvement to their ability, or even simply to their way to usage in your army. So based on what dynasty you play and what warlord trait you choose, not mind if it's normal warlord trait or the dynasty warlord trait, anyway you can improve quite a lot the army itself. So I suggest you to read quite good this part and choose attentively which one suits better for your army, because you have a lot of different options that has a lot of different effects that can be really quite amazing applied on the field. So from Dynamod, it's everything. I invite you to put a like on this video, to subscribe to the channel, to ring the bell, and to comment this video if you are interested in something about this video or you want to suggest me some arguments for other videos. I hope to see you again to the next time.